of the organizing committee. I have been introduced already. A bit limited in time, but I will see what I can do with the 5 minutes. So first of all, I must be keen to thank for the organization. I must attest that from our arrival yesterday, we have been well accommodated. And my role here today is to lay foundation to what is before you here today, as how can public-private partnerships create a proper environment for regional industrialization in the East African community. So I've had the privilege to participate in several conferences with regard to private-public partnerships, and I hope I can deduct that experience into my keynote address here today. So let me just head straight into the water because I have very limited time here. If you can take me to the next slide, please. So basically, in these 5 minutes, I just want us to be in a position to answer one question. How can the East African community tap the maximum benefits from private and public partnerships? So it's a huge congregation here. I want to assume that not all of us are accustomed to what is public and private partnerships, but just for introductory purposes, when the public sector and the private sector combine into multiple different projects with a view to achieve a common purpose, that's usually a public and private partnership. So the public sector usually brings into the table available resources within their land. The private sector usually comes in and injects capital, and in some instances becomes the operator and the funder of these projects. But the ultimate goal here is that eventually these projects come back to the governments of different states for ownership purposes. So these PPPs operate in different ways. But just to be brief, I wouldn't be able to dive into all of them for your understanding, but I know we have a panel discussion, I think, later tomorrow or today. I think the panelists will have an opportunity to expand more for your better understanding. But in these different formats or formalities of PPPs, the basic objective is that the public sector has resources, has a funding gap to exploit these resources, so there's an invitation to the private sector to come in. Now, seeing the potential which has been derived from the pre-feasibility studies, the private sector decides to inject capital, invest. And the ultimate product here is to benefit both, again, the public sector for the services of the members of the community and the state in general, but also the private sector itself is here to recover the operation and investment costs and, of course, make a reasonable profit out of it at the end. Now, if you can just take me to the portfolio for PPPs. The portfolio, if you can just forward the next slides until the portfolio. See, you could have benefited from all these slides, but I don't have time. So just take me to the portfolio, please. Next, yes. So I just wanted to lay down this picture to you for your better understanding. So for East African community, much of PPPs have been divided into these kinds of sectors. So most of the investment has been on energy, particularly electricity, but you will also find a significant investment into ports. But you also find significant investment into water and sewage, as well as natural gas, railways, and airports. So this is the general picture of how collectively public-private partnerships have been injected and operative in East Africa. If you could please take me to the next slide. Now, in general, just to give you a broader picture, this is at least statistically how it looks like in terms of how African states have invested into PPPs. So as you can see here, East Africa, we have a bit of work to do. We are still lagging behind with, of course, in terms of South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and Ghana, who have more investments done in PPPs and have ultimately transformed these investments into economic benefits. So this was just to give us a portfolio of how we stand in terms of comparative statistics in the East African region. If you can just take me to the next slide, please. Again, next. Next, please. Of course, I've been introduced. My primary profession is a lawyer, so I think it's important just to note down that the legal basis of the PPPs that we are engaging in conversation here today stems from this EAC Industrialization Strategy 2021-2032. But importantly, the East African community has a bill, not yet passed into law, but it is in process of discussion, and it's our recommendation that it's transformed into actual operational law so that we can, again, reap the benefits from it. Also from the EAC investment protocol, which also supports the injection of capital from joint ventures. So I had with me several examples of PPPs, but of course, for purposes of time, you can just skim through these slides. So these ones are from Uganda. If you can just move quickly. These are projects which have been, some of them are still on motion. Some of them have been completed. This is Tanzania. I think you can just take them through the slides. I had initially wanted to speak about each one of these to understand their background and how they've been formulated into actual plays. If you can just move forward again. So also for Kenya, there are significant examples. Just move forward, please. Yes, so I think residents of Kenya or people who've been there, you understand all these, which also infrastructure which have been, of course, the product of public and private partnerships towards industrialization and, of course, maximizing value chains. So I had this compilation of examples from different East African countries just to be able to shed a greater picture of how much benefits have been reaped from these PPPs. So, of course, I think there will be access to these slides, maybe for the benefit of other members if you want to take a look a bit later. So, finally, let me just say these PPPs have a foundation which East African countries, the East African region integration, can use and can tap the benefits from if properly regulated. So I think we will have a better discussion in the panels so as to understand how each public-private partnership works, different formats, and how East African countries can now transform the potential available towards industrialization and strengthening value chains through public and private partnerships. Other than that, let me say shukran. I just wish I had more time to expand on this, but again, it's a privilege to be here, and thank you for accommodating us.